सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Let us chant up to 11. ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ सप्तमोऽध्यायः ज्ञानविज्ञानयोगः। श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यासक्तमनाः पार्थ योगं युञ्जन्मदाश्रयः समग्रं मां यथा ज्ञास्यसि तच्छृणु। ज्ञानं तेऽहं शेषतः यज्ञात्वा नेह भूयोऽन्यत् ज्ञातव्यमवशिष्यते। मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु कश्चिद् यतति सिद्धये। कश्चिन्मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खं मनो बुद्धिरेव च। अहङ्कार इति यं मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा अपरेयमितस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परां। जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत् एतद् योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय। अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा मत्तः परतरं नान्यत् किञ्चिदस्ति धनञ्जय। सूत्रे मणिगणा इव रसोऽहमप्सु कौन्तेय प्रभास्मि शशिसूर्ययोः। प्रणवः सर्ववेदेषु शब्दः खे पौरुषं नृषु। पुण्यो गन्धः पृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ। तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विद्धि पार्थ सनातनं। बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहं। बलं बलवतां चाहं कामरागविवर्जितं। धर्माविरुद्धो भूतेषु कामोऽस्मि भरतर्षभ।
So after having glorified
the spiritual knowledge, Bhagavan now elaborates upon Ishvara Swarupam. What is the nature of God? So what does Bhagavan say? Bhagavan says, Arjuna, I have two nature. One is the lower nature, the other is the higher nature. The lower nature is what we call as matter. Apara Prakriti or Ashtadha Prakriti. The higher nature is what we call as consciousness. Sometimes Bhagavan is also called as Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. This is put here in a different way. So Upadana Karana means material cause. For example, suppose a potter has to make a pot. So what are the causes of pot? Number one, there should be material to make the pot. So this material cause is called as Upadana Karanam. Just material alone will not do. Somebody has to make it. The maker of the pot or the potter is called as Nimitta Karanam or efficient cause. So if the pot has to get created, there should be material and there should be someone who knows how to make it. So the Upadana Karanam or the material cause in this case is mud, and the Nimitta Karanam or efficient cause in this case is the potter. In the same way, for the whole world, what is the material cause? So then the scripture says it is God. God out of himself created the material. Right? Then who made it? Scriptures say it is God alone who made the world also. So God made the world out of himself. So therefore, in this case, Nimitta Karanam is also God. Upadana Karanam also is God. Now someone may ask, how is it possible? Is it ever possible? It appears to be impossible. For example, in the case of the pot, potter is different, mud is different. Is it ever possible that efficient cause and material cause be one and the same? So then the scriptures give the example. Yathorna nabhihi srijate grunhate cha, like the spider. So when the spider spins the web, from where did that material for creating the web come from? It has come from the spider itself. The name of the spider is called Urna Nabhi, the one who creates Urna, thread out of its own abdomen, navel. So that's what you call, the material comes out of the spider, and who spins the web? Spider itself. So this is the example given. So therefore Bhagavan is called Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. Meaning the material for creating the world also has come from God. The one who created the world is also God. It is Abhinna, there is no difference. So this is what is being pointed out here. Also, what is the Ishvara Swarupam? So Bhagavan says, I am Jagataha Prabhavaha Pralayaha. I am the source of Srishti, Sthiti and Laya. I am the cause of Srishti, Sthiti and Laya of the creation. The creation comes from me, it remains in me, it dissolves into me. So this is the second nature of Ishvara Swarupam. Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, Karanam. Then what else do we understand from this definition? Mattaf parataram na anyat kinchit asti. Meaning, God is Satyam, Jagat is Mithya. The real sum and substance of everything is nothing but God. Whatever you see, it is just an illusion. Other than God, nothing exists. Normally we say there is only one God. Even that statement is wrong. There is only God. That statement is right. There is only God. Right? Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. So this is Ishvara Surupam. So what example does Bhagavan give? Bhagavan says, Mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. Everything in this world, sentient or insentient, moving or unmoving, everything exists in me, just like the pearls are being strung by the thread. Just like the thread carries the pearls, and thus a beautiful necklace is made. In the same way, the whole world, whatever you see, it is strung unto me, meaning I give the support. So yesterday we were analyzing this example. Just like the thread is unseen, only the pearls are seen. In the same way, the world is seen, matter is seen, but God remains unseen, being the very subject, being the very consciousness in us. The existence of the necklace comes because of the thread. In the same way, the existence of the world is because of consciousness. And then the thread through each pearl is the same, though the pearl may appear different. Different pearls, different color, different sizes, but the thread is the same. In the same way, each and every one of us, we have different bodies, different mind, different personalities, but the essential nature in us, the essence in us, the life principle in us is one and the same, which is consciousness, which is none other than God. So now this statement is elaborated. Everything is in me. Everywhere I am present. So that point is elaborated through different examples. The taste in water is me. The sound in space, the special feature of each element, it is mine. The most important term in the Vedas, Omkara, it is me. The light in the sun and the moon, it is me. The heat and light of the fire, it is me, etc., etc. The intelligence in the intelligent. And then austerity in the austere. Life in all beings. The strength in the strong. Everything belongs to me. So here, in the 11th verse, Balam balavatam chaham kama raga vivarjitam. So there are two terms used, kama and raga. The strength in the strong is me, but what kind of strength? Kama raga vivarjitam. Why two terms? Kama means desire in order to get what I don't have. Raga means after having got it, the attachment towards it. It is called raga. That is how it is defined. So suppose I don't have a watch, a very costly watch. So there is a desire. That is called as kama. But once I get the watch, then I have attachment towards the watch. Then that is called as raga. So free from kama and raga. So yesterday we had seen all that. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. The good desires in the noble people, the noble desires, all those desires spring from me. Now let us chant the next one. Ye chaiva satvika bhavaha rajasastamasascha ye matta eveti tan vidhi na tvaham teshu te mai ye chaiva satvika bhavaha rajasastamasascha ye matta eveti tan vidhi Na tvaham teshu te maye. Yes. Now here bhava. Bhava means thoughts. What kind of thoughts? Sattvika, Rajasa and Tamasa. The sattvic, rajasic and tamasic thoughts which spring in us, Bhagavan say, all the thoughts emerge from me. Matta evetitan vidhi. Know that all kinds of thoughts spring from me. Meaning, all thoughts exist in me. So in our scriptures, all kinds of thoughts, they are divided into three. What are they? Tamasic, Rajasic and Sattvic. What do you mean tamasic thoughts? Tamasic thoughts mean dull thoughts. When we are lazy, when we are careless, when we tend to postpone things, when we feel sleepy, then understand the mind is in the tamasic mood. These are the three moods of the mind. One is a dull, lazy mood. There is a tamasic mind. Then what is a rajasic mind? When the mind is in rajas, you are highly extrovert. You are highly restless. You are very dynamic. Right? You are very selfish. You are very egoistic. You can't sit quietly even for 1 minute. Then understand your mind is in a rajasic state. And when the mind is in sattvic state, you are calm, you are quiet, you are peaceful, you are cheerful. Your mind is very alert. That state of mind is called a sattvic mind. So these three moods are there in all of us. But one of the moods, one of them is always predominant. So according to the predominant mood, we call a person that is sattvic, rajasic or tamasic. But all the three moods are there in all. So these moods come because of the thoughts. So bhavaha here means thoughts. Now Bhagavan says, not only in the outer world I am present, but even in the inner world. In the thought world also, it is I alone who am present. All the thoughts come from me alone. Now a question comes, Bhagavan, do you mean to say the criminal thoughts in a criminal, it is also created by you? The evil thoughts in the evil people, do you create? So then the criminal should not be punished, you must be punished. Isn't it? So then the answer given is, this is a question raised by Bhagavan Shankaracharya while commenting this verse. So then the answer given is, see, there is something called Samanya Karanam, there is something called Vishesha Karanam. There is something called general cause, there is something called specific cause. For example, if the vehicle has to move, what is the general cause? It is the fuel. Without the fuel, the vehicle cannot move. But suppose the vehicle creates an accident. Instead of going on the road, it goes on the pavement. Who has to be punished? The fuel or the driver? The driver has to be punished, isn't it? So the Vishesha Karanam is the driver there. Samanya Karanam is the fuel. Vehicle moves because of fuel, but where does the vehicle move? That is decided by the driver. In the same way, any building is made by bricks and cements. Any building. But what kind of building comes up is determined by the owner of the building or the architect. He is the one who designs. Whether it should be circular or square or rectangle, what height, etc. Who decides? It is the owner of the building, isn't it? In the same way, no doubt it is because of God that all thoughts come from our mind. God is none other than the consciousness. All thoughts exist in consciousness. Without consciousness, thoughts cannot exist. But what kind of thoughts come from us? Who has to decide? Not God, but we ourselves. What kind of thoughts are we entertaining? Whether are we entertaining noble sattvic thoughts, or whether we are entertaining rajasic thoughts or tamasic thoughts, who has to decide? We decide. What kind of thoughts we entertain, it is left upon us. In fact, if you invoke the grace of God, you can make your thoughts sattvic. And that is the way in which the mind is made sattvic. The most efficient way, the most practical way of making the mind sattvic is remembering God. What happens when your mind is sattvic? When your mind is sattvic, that mind comes under your control. When the mind is sattvic, it is at peace. When the mind is sattvic, you enjoy the company of your mind. When the mind is sattvic, you can employ the mind for doing your task. That mind becomes easily concentrated. It will not distract you. A sattvic mind always shows you the right way. What is to be done, what should not be done, what is right, what is wrong. A sattvic mind is your best friend. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhu, atmaiva ripuratmanaha, 6th chapter. Your own mind is your friend, your own mind is your enemy. When does our mind become our enemy? When the mind is rajasic or tamasic, that mind is our enemy. It will make you extrovert. It will misguide you, saying that the world is the source of happiness. Sensual pleasures are the source of happiness. It will misguide you. But when the mind is sattvic, it will guide you properly. So what is to be done whenever we are supposed to engage in any work? The first thing to be done is make the mind sattvic. That is why we start all our studies with prayer. The mind has to be tuned, fine-tuned. Before applying the mind, we have to prepare the mind. Preparing the mind means making the mind sattvic. And what is the best way of making the mind sattvic? Invoke the grace of Lord. Right. So, matta eveti tan vidhi. All thoughts actually reside in me. What does Bhagavan say? Natu aham teshu te mai. I am not in them, they are in me. Natu aham teshu. I am not in them, te mai. They are in me. I am not in the thoughts, thoughts are in me. What does it mean? It means I don't depend on them, they depend on me. It is something like the clay saying, the clay doesn't depend on the pot, but the pot depends on the clay. The pot for its existence has to depend on the clay. Gold need not depend on the ornaments. Ornaments depend on gold for its existence. In the same way, consciousness need not depend on thoughts. Even without thoughts also consciousness can exist. But can thoughts exist without consciousness? No. It is not possible. Just like waves cannot exist without water, but water can exist without wave. In short, I am the support for your thoughts also. Whatever thoughts are emerging, they are emerging in consciousness. That is why we are conscious of our thoughts. We are conscious of our thoughts because these thoughts are present in consciousness. So here, this topic gets over. So what are the lessons to be learned from this? In the outer world also it is Bhagavan, in the inner world also it is Bhagavan. So the lesson to be learned from this discussion is, number 1, world is divine. Number 2, world is controlled by the divine. Number 3, I exist because of divine. Number 4, all the abilities, talents, capacities, I have got it from the divine. Right? Number 5, If I have to succeed, I must invoke the grace and blessings of the divine. Number 6, I am here to know my oneness with the divine. These are the lessons to be learned from all this previous discussion. So what is the first one? World is divine. So your vision about the world, when you are seeing the world, what are you seeing is the question. Are you seeing just like the scientists are seeing the world? For them everything is atom, neutrons and protons. Or are you seeing any kind of divinity in this world? So the study of the scripture, the purpose is to replace your previous undivine thoughts with divine thoughts. The world should remind you of God. When you see the world, you must be reminded of God. When you see the infinite space, what are you reminded of? It should be God. When you see the sunrise and the sunset, what are you reminded of? It should be God. When you hear your heart beat, what should you be reminded of? It should be God. If this is your case, then your vision is perfect. Then you will find you are never away from God. You don't have to do a specific sadhana or sitting and praying. Not necessary. Just you are watching the world is enough. You are seeing nothing but God. Whether the eyes are open or whether the eyes are closed, what are you experiencing? You experience God and God alone. Right? Swami Taponji Maharaj, the guru of Swami Chinmayanji Maharaj, whenever he used to see clouds passing by, whenever he used to see the birds, he used to go to Samadhi. Right? When the clouds go, he used to be reminded of God. And then he used to go into Samadhi. Anything, little thing. A beautiful flower coming out in a jungle, unnoticed by any. But that flower can remind you of God. All the great Mahatmas, if you see, they had this vision, and this can be cultivated. It is something which we have to cultivate. There was a great Mahatma. So he was eating some bread or something, some chapati. At that time, one dog comes and snatches the bread from him. This Mahatma started running after the dog, saying, "Wait! Oh Narayana in the form of dog, I did not apply butter. Please wait." See the vision? He is not seeing dog there. He is seeing Bhagavan himself. Swami Shivanji Maharaj also, he used to prostrate to everyone, to the trees. Even when there is a donkey standing there, he used to prostrate. But what is he seeing? See the vision. When you see the world, what kind of thoughts emerge in your mind? That is very important. Right? You can train your thoughts. Sadhana is nothing but training your thoughts. In every situation, if you are remembering divine, then your thoughts are well trained, beautifully trained. Such a mind which ever entertains divine, noble thoughts, that mind will always be cheerful. That mind will always be in the sattvic condition. What have we done with our mind? Whatever we see in the world, we see only defects. We see only imperfections. That is a wrong way. Some people are there. You just talk to them, they will start pinpointing all the defects in the world. Government is not right, roads are not good, people are all corrupt, there is so much of scam going on. Let us not forget, what is the second principle? The whole world is controlled by the divine. These things should always be kept in mind. Who is the support of the whole world? It is Bhagavan. You think Bhagavan can make a mistake? If you see imperfections, understand it is by His will that there is that imperfection. And if you find that you can make some improvement in the imperfection, remember the ability in you to make that correction again comes from Him. If you are in a position to change the situation, change it. If If you are not in a position to change the situation, accept it gracefully. Accept it without complaint. Let us remember one thing, this world is absolutely perfect. Whatever the newspaper may say, it is. Newspapers are normally written by foolish people. So foolish people can bring out only foolish things. The world is absolutely perfect. Swamiji, then what about corruptions, etc.? You think it is perfect? It is perfect. Why is it perfect? See, this world is meant for whom? For the perfect or for the imperfect? Remember, this world, Bhagavan himself has called apara prakriti, lower nature. Yes or no? Bhagavan calls this world as his lower nature. So lower nature should belong to whom? Higher people or lower people? In short, this world is meant for our progress. So in this world you will find people committing mistakes. We are here to commit mistakes. We commit mistake, then we suffer for that mistake as karma phala. Through suffering we repent, and through repentance we evolve. This is the continuous process that is happening in the world. Somewhere we are ignorant. Because of ignorance we commit mistake. Through mistake we suffer. Through suffering we become contemplative. And through contemplation we gain a higher knowledge. By gaining a higher knowledge we evolve. This is what is happening everywhere. Yes or no? From the birth itself. Have you ever seen a child running around the moment it comes out of the womb of the mother? No. This child learns, isn't it, how to walk. It is a slow step. It's a process. Lot of things the child learns. How to balance itself. How to gain the strength for the body. There are so many things. How to become alert. And slowly a time comes when the child is able to walk and run comfortably. In the same way, at different levels we are ignorant, and because of ignorance we commit mistakes, and thus by committing mistakes we learn. Remember, life is not a book. You just study the book and you have learned everything. No. Through experience alone we learn. Every learning comes through first-hand experience. Can you ever learn what is heat without touching fire? Just by repeating, fire is hot, fire is hot, will you ever know what is heat? No, you must touch fire, you must get your fingers burned, and now you have a first-hand experience of what the nature of fire is, isn't it? Now you have understood. How much ever you tell your child that fire is hot, the child is not going to understand. The child again has to put his finger and get burnt. Isn't it? In the same way, in this life you will find very many people committing mistakes in different spheres. Corruption, yes, it is allowed. If something like corruption is happening, understand it is happening by the will of God. Because that particular person there is something for him to learn. He has to commit that mistake. He has to become dishonest. And because of his dishonesty, somewhere he will suffer. And through that suffering, he will know the value of truth. Otherwise, how will you ever value truth? You will know the value of truth only when you live an untruthful life and then you suffer. Then you learn. Isn't it? So this world is a beautiful field where we can experiment with truth. We can experiment with life, and through these experiments there will be lot of ups and downs, there will be lot of falls, but remember, in every fall somewhere or the other we are benefited. Externally it may appear to be a fall, but actually from the spiritual standpoint it is not a fall, it is only a rise, because you have learned something. You have learned how not to live life. You have learned how happiness cannot come from wrong way of living. It's a learning. Therefore, this world is perfect. So this world is divine. this world is perfectly controlled by the divine. So why I have discussed all this? Because if at all, if there is someone who comes to your life and tell, oh, I am in terrible pain, people are not good, the world is not good, I am suffering because of the world, because of my in-laws, because of my husband, because of my wife, because of my child, you must say, no, you are suffering because of yourself. Make it clear. Your suffering is only because of yourself. The world is perfect, you are suffering because you are imperfect. You have not come here to make the world perfect, you have come here to make yourself perfect. It is not our responsibility to make the world perfect. That God will take care. Our responsibility is only one, to make ourselves perfect. Let us be very clear about life. Otherwise, whole of your life will be wasted in trying to change others. It is said, when a person is young, he tries to change the world. And when the person is old, he tries to change the young people. He tries to change the youth. Everybody is busy trying to change others. Nobody pays attention to the imperfections within and to improve oneself. Very rare few are found to do this. That's why Bhagavan says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye. No one puts forth effort to reform oneself. Why? Because this person thinks, I am suffering because of the world. So therefore, nobody strives to improve oneself. Very rare. So the first step in spirituality is to understand, I am suffering because of myself, because of my own imperfection. Right. So the world is divine, world is controlled by the divine, and then my existence is because of the divine. Let us remember this. Jivanam sarva bhuteshu. Very life principle is because of God. Let us never forget it. I am existing because of Him. I by myself have no existence. I exist because He exists. In fact, the fact is, He alone exists. His existence I have misunderstood to be my existence. That's a fact. What exists is consciousness. Now you think this consciousness is you because of your wrong notion. Even now, what exists is only God. That existence of God, you think it is your existence. So what is gaining knowledge? Gaining knowledge is nothing but understanding that what exists is only He, not me. That is why in spirituality, dissolving the ego is given the highest importance. When the ego is dissolved, what remains is only Bhagavan. So the third lesson, what is it? I exist because Bhagavan exists. I by myself have no existence. So naturally all the abilities, the talents, everything belongs to whom? It again belongs to Bhagavan Himself. How do we practically prove it to ourselves? Suppose you have the great ability to sing. Ask yourself this question, how do you move your vocal cord? Technically you have to explain. Which are the nerve systems you activate? Which are the cell you activate? We don't know anything, isn't it? A great singer doesn't know how the vocal cord functions. A great thinker doesn't know how the brain functions. A great tennis player doesn't know how he is holding the racket. A great batsman doesn't know how he is holding the bat. In short, what? These abilities are given to us. It is not ours. So how are we supposed to use these abilities? We must use these abilities in serving the Lord. Jagata Ishadhi Yukta Sevanam Ashtamurti Bhrat Deva Pujanam. May we use these abilities, the talents given by the Lord in order to serve Him, in order to please Him. At the same time, let us not remember, these abilities which I have belongs to God, the abilities which others have also belong to God. Otherwise what will happen? There will come jealousy. I am more jealous of somebody else who is more capable than me. Jealousy comes when you think that your abilities are yours, his ability is his. Both of you don't have your abilities, everything belongs to God. Once you have this bigger picture in mind, all the negativities of the mind will disappear. Jealousy, revenge, hatred, everything will vanish. So the abilities belong to God. That's what Bhagavan says. Buddhir buddhimatam asmi. The intelligence in the intelligent belongs to whom? Bhagavan. Tejas tejasvinamaham. So all the abilities, they belong to the divine. There is a lesson to be learned. And then another lesson to be learned is, whatever situations come to you, remember it is sent by the divine. Because since the world is divine, the world is controlled by the divine, so naturally the situations which come to us also has to be sent by the divine. Each and every one of us, we are given the right situation to evolve, to improve ourselves. Lord, being the very consciousness in us, He knows what kind of medicines to be given. Because He knows what kind of disease you are suffering from. So therefore He gives a right kind of medicine through right kind of situation. So right kind of person will come as your husband, as your wife. Remember, they are all choice of God only. He is not seen. He is the Sutre Manigana Iva. Right? He is a thread. You will not see him. But He knows. You have such and such sharp corner in your personality. That sharp corner has to be filed out, polished. So correctly, exactly another person will come who can polish that particular sharp corner. You understand? So if you are an egoistic person, there will be another person with a greater ego to smash your ego. Every situation, remember, everything, minute to minute, He plans everything for you. Right kind of person comes into your life. Maybe as a neighbor, maybe as a relative, maybe as a child, maybe as a father, mother. Everything is beautifully planned. So that your personality blossoms, blooms, you evolve. Externally it might appear to be a suffering, but in the process of suffering also, there is the personality which is getting polished. Have you seen the pebbles in the river? They are all round in shape. How do they become round? By constant rubbing and scrubbing, isn't it? The constant flow of water, it becomes smooth and round. In the same way, Bhagavan makes our personality round, soft, smooth, perfect through various kinds of situations. So whatever situation come, don't grumble, don't complain. Just remember the Lord and say, God, please give me the strength to face the situation. Let me not complain about the situation. What you have to give? Please give me the strength. Please give me the intelligence of how to deal with the situation. This is the way the really wise people pray. So world is divine, world is controlled by the divine, we exist because of the divine, our abilities belong to the divine, all situations come from the divine, right? We are here to serve the divine. And if at all you want success, what you should do? Invoke the grace and blessings of the divine. It is very important. Whatever you do, first remember God, then only you start. Everything belongs to Him. We must get His blessings. We must get His grace. It is very essential. In the beginning itself it is said, what is said? Maya saktamanaf partha yogam yunjan. Put forth your effort, but mad ashraya. That mad ashraya means invoking the grace and blessings of God. So whatever be the activity you do, whatever be the job you do, wherever you are, whichever field you are in, first remember God and then start. This is also a message, a lesson. And finally, let us not forget, we are here to know our oneness with God. We are none other than God. The purpose of life is this. There may be many short-term goals, long-term goals, but what is the lifetime goal? Lifetime goal is to experience our oneness with the divine. That goal should be always clear in mind. So these are the lessons we have to learn from these verses. Now moving ahead, let us chant verse number 13. Tribhir gunamayair bhavaihi ebhis sarvamidam jagat mohitam nabhijanati mamebhyah paramavyayam tribhir gunamayair bhavaihi ebhis sarvamidam jagat mohitam nabhijanati mamebhyah paramavyayam. Now here Bhagavan is lamenting, literally crying, alas. What is Bhagavan saying? Idam sarvam jagat mohitam. The whole world is deluded. Totally deluded. They are in ignorance. How are they deluded? Gunamayihi tribihi bhavehi mohitam. Because of the three gunas. So three gunas are sattva, rajas, tamas. In short, because of matter. Because of lower nature, apara prakriti. The whole world is deluded because of the apara prakriti. And therefore, Mam avyayam na abhijanati. Therefore, they don't recognize me, the imperishable. Because the beings are deluded, they don't recognize me. So remember the discussion which happened day before yesterday. What is that? Consciousness and matter. So what is the theory? Identification theory. Consciousness by itself is infinite, immortal, all-pervading. But when this consciousness identifies with the matter, what happens to consciousness? It experiences finitude. It experiences imperfection. So I am consciousness which is infinite, which is immortal, which is infinite bliss. I am Sat Chit Anand. But when I identify with a body, this body is a triguna, the modifications of the gunas, lower nature. When I identify with a limited body, limited mind, limited intellect, though I am infinite consciousness, what do I experience? I experience finitude. I experience mortality. I experience sorrow. I experience misery. I experience limitation. So all the limitation, misery, etc. I experience, it is because of what? Because of my identification. That is what Bhagavan says. The whole world is deluded. Mam na abhijanati. They are not knowing me. Who is this Mam? The very consciousness in each and every one of us. They are not able to recognize me. The Supreme Lord is there as a very consciousness in us. We are not recognizing Him. What is the nature of consciousness? Avyayam, imperishable. So God is saying, I am existing as the very I in each and every one of us. I am existing as the very self in each beings. But alas, nobody is recognizing me. Just see with what pain Bhagavan is telling this. When we are suffering, as though Bhagavan is suffering. Just like when the child suffers, mother suffers. Bhagavan is our mother and father. So when the child is suffering, who suffers? It's Bhagavan who is suffering. So Bhagavan is saying, alas, I am so near to them, but they don't recognize me. Even to say Bhagavan is near is wrong. Near means there is some distance, isn't it? Bhagavan is the very self in us, the very I in us. The I am experience in us. I am. This I am is Bhagavan. Now how far is that I am experience in you? It is not far, it is you yourself, isn't it? It's so close. Bhagavan says, alas, though I am there in them, every moment I am there, but they don't recognize me. Why are we not recognizing Him? Because of identification. What is the property? What is that rule? What is the theory? When entity A identifies with entity B, the properties of B appear to be the property of A. Means what? A no longer experiences its properties. It is experiencing B's property. Yes. In the same way, I, the infinite consciousness, when I identify with the body, I experience only the properties of the body. I don't experience the properties of consciousness. Are you able to follow? So what is the property of the body? We have discussed. The body is born, it grows, decays, dies. So when you are identified with the decaying and dying body, you experience decay and death, though it is not your nature. Therefore we are miserable. We are miserable for somebody else's fate. Film theatre example. You are crying for whose problem? Not your problem, but the hero's problem. Remember, the hero is unreal. You are crying for an unreal problem of an unreal character. You, the real, crying for the unreal. This is the whole world. Remember, the body is mithya. Mind is mithya, intellect is mithya, they are unreal. What is the real thing? Consciousness. You, the real consciousness, crying and weeping because you got identified with an unreal body. This is what. So Bhagavan is lamenting. So then Bhagavan, tell me, what is the way? How to come out? I don't want to cry. Fine, this is the way. So next verse gives the way to come out of all sufferings. Very famous verse. Verse number 14. Daivi hesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mame vaye prapadyante Maya me tam taranti te Daivi hesha gunamayi Mama maya duratyaya Mame vaye prapadyante Maya me tam taranti te. Yes. Whole world is deluded. People are deluded. Bhagavan says there is no wonder in it. Why? Mama maya duratyaya. My maya is such that it is impossible to overcome. Bhagavan himself admits. What kind of maya is your maya, Bhagavan? It is Daivi. It is divine. See? Bhagavan calls his maya as divine maya. Why is it called divine maya? It is called divine because this maya or this world help us to evolve. Measured doses are given to each and every one of us so that we evolve in life. There's an infinite intelligence behind this creation. Therefore it is divine. It is with a purpose. That is why it is divine. It helps the jiva to know that he is Ishvara. Therefore it is divine. So the adjective of Maya is Daivi, divine, and Gunamayi, made of gunas, made of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. This Maya of mine, Duratyaya. It is impossible to overcome. Bhagavan, if it is impossible to overcome, then we are stuck for life. Lives together. No. There is one technique. There is only one technique. There is only one way in which we can come out of this trap. What is it? Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. There is a way in which you can cross over this maya. You can come out of this imperfection. You can come out of this suffering and misery. There is a way. What is the way? Mam eva ye prapadyante. Those who take refuge in me alone. Now that eva is very strong. Mam eva. Mam eva means what? Me alone. That eva is strong. Mam api. No. Mam eva. Mam api, me also. There are so many ways. You take refuge in me also. That is also one of the way. No. There is only one way. And the only way is take refuge in me. So this verse can be described at different levels. From a very practical level, the thing is, if you are suffering, take the name of God. Remember God. Whatever be the suffering, it may be at a very practical level, mundane level. Then also this verse is right. If you are having some kind of problem in life, economic problem, social problem, family problem, whatever be the problem may be, are you suffering? Mam eva ye prapadyante. Take refuge in Bhagavan. He will give the best solution to you. Being the father and mother of this creation, it is his responsibility to see that we are out of our suffering, misery. Provided, Mameva ye prapadyante, take refuge in me. If you don't take refuge in God, he will be just witnessing. It is something like, the room is dark. Sunlight is there, but the room is dark. What does it mean? You have not opened the windows and doors, correct? Now who has to open the window and door? The one who is inside, suffering the darkness. Sunlight cannot open the window. Sunlight can at the most wait outside. Who has to open the door? The one who is suffering. In the same way, Bhagavan is ever ready to help us, guide us, protect us, provided we seek his guidance. We seek his advice. We surrender unto him, saying, Bhagavan, please guide me. If this surrender, if this request doesn't come from us, he is helpless. Just like the sunlight is helpless. It wants to come in, but it cannot come. In the same way, as long as we don't surrender, Bhagavan becomes helpless in helping us. He can't help us. So what is the first step? Surrender unto him. Invoke his grace. Bhagavan, please guide me. I am in trouble. Will he come to help? Definitely yes. Wherever you are, whatever kind of problem you may be having. So this is at the practical level. Mama maya duratyaya. Again, suppose you have trouble in controlling your anger. So many vices are there of the mind. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsalya. So many vices are there. What is the best way of winning over these vices? The best way is seek divine help. There are some temporary measures, like for example, how to control anger, count 100 times. All those things are very temporary measures. It will not work all the time. I heard a very nice story. One boy was sitting on another boy. So then father saw. Father asked, Ramu, what are you doing? You are sitting on that boy. Ramu said, he hit me on my cheek. Then the father said, my dear child, how many times I have told you? Whenever you get angry, count 100 times. The boy said, yes, father, I am counting 100 times, but I am making sure that this fellow doesn't run away anywhere. So after counting 100 times, I will give him. This is the way we handle anger. All these superficial methods are not going to work. If you want to conquer the mind, if you want to conquer the vices of the mind, if you have to come out of this, there is only one way, most efficient way, guaranteed way, that is surrender unto God. The mind is created by Him. He knows how to handle the mind. So therefore surrender unto Him. When you surrender unto Him, the mind surrenders unto you. When you become the slave of God, mind become your slave. When you don't surrender unto God, you become the slave of your mind. Now which is better? To become the slave of God or to become the slave of mind? Isn't it? So the best way of living is surrender unto God. Then you will find the mind becomes sattvic. And once the mind becomes sattvic, the mind is under your control. Once the mind is under your control, success is yours. This is a practical level. Now, from the most high level, at the seat of meditation, what are you supposed to do? Here comes a beautiful tip. Mam eva ye prapadyante. So it's a very, very important tip for serious meditators. So at the seat of meditation, you close your eyes, you are away from all distractions. Now the only one thing which can distract you at the seat of meditation is what? Your thoughts. Correct? Your thoughts. Nothing but mind. So at the seat of meditation, Bhagavan says, Mama Maya Duratyaya. You can never quieten the mind. Impossible. But then there is a way. What is the way? Mam eva ye prapadyante. Taking refuge in me. What do you mean taking refuge in me? Shift your attention from the thoughts to consciousness. This is called Sharanagati. Instead of showing interest in the thoughts which are brought in by the mind, don't show interest in the thoughts, show interest in consciousness in the light of which you are conscious of thoughts. At the seat of meditation, you have only these two options. Either you can be after thoughts or you can be after consciousness. Either you can pay attention to thoughts or you can pay attention to consciousness. Either you can entertain thoughts or you can witness thoughts. These are the only two options available. When you are with thoughts, when you get identified with thoughts, when you entertain thoughts, thought starts multiplying. That's the meaning, Mama Maya Duratyaya. You can never quieten the thoughts by entertaining thoughts, by identifying with the thoughts. So what are you supposed to do? Instead of identifying with the thought, just pay attention to consciousness. Just start witnessing the thought. When you are witnessing the thought, you are paying importance to, you are paying attention to what? Consciousness. And when you are paying attention to consciousness, you are surrendering unto God, because consciousness is nothing but God Himself. The moment you start witnessing thoughts, the thought starts dying down. Mam eva ye prapadyante. Thoughts represent world, consciousness represents God. Now the choice is yours. Are you interested in world or are you interested in God? Many people complain, I don't know, Swamiji, when I sit for meditation, my mind wanders. It only means you are more interested in world. You are not interested in God. And as long as you are interested in world, you will not get God. Both together you can't get. As long as Kama is, Rama cannot be. Rama and Kama cannot go together. When your mind is wandering, Kama is active. When the mind is at peace, Rama predominates. In the throne of your heart, there is only one seat. Either Kama can sit or Rama can sit. Choice is yours. So if at the seat of meditation, if you are going to sleep, that is a normal case. Or even at the seat of meditation, if the mind is wandering, understand you have not developed sufficient love for God. Your love for world is stronger than your love for God. It is something like the magnet kept, something like an iron piece kept between two magnets. Magnet A, magnet B, in the center you keep a piece of iron. Where will it go? Where will the iron piece go? It will slide towards that magnet which is powerful. In the same way, where is your mind going at the seat of meditation? Understand that is where your, attachment lies. So at the seat of meditation also, a wandering mind can show you a lot of symptoms of the imperfections in your personality. What is your weak point? Where are you falling down? Where are you stumbling? A person who has developed sufficient love for God through the right practices, by living a lifestyle of a karma yogi, one such person who has developed love, respect and reverence, who values God in life, for him meditation is just a cakewalk. It is very easy for him. The mind is never tempted by the illusory pleasures of the world. So the litmus test for each and every one of us, how great a devotee we are, the litmus test is at the seat of meditation. What is happening to your mind? Are you able to withdraw the extroverted mind? Are you able to withdraw it and place it in consciousness? Fine, you may not be doing consciousness meditation, you may be doing some Ishtadevata meditation, fine. Shiva, Rama, Krishna, whatever. But are you able to fix your mind there? Ishtadevata is also fine. Slowly, that form of the Ishtadevata will vanish and consciousness will take its place. Anything is fine. But the question is, how much do you love God? So this verse is very important. Mama maya duratteya. But the solution is, Mam eva ye prapadyante. What is the proof that I truly love God? The proof is, you are able to witness your thoughts objectively. Number one, you are very clearly able to see the thoughts and consciousness as two different entities. In most of us, it is a homogeneous mixture. We don't know which is consciousness, which is thought. That is because the mind is not pure. This kind of meditation is possible only when you have sufficiently purified your mind, because only in a pure mind you can clearly see the distinction between the thought and consciousness. When that purity is there, you will clearly see the thoughts floating in consciousness. You are intimately experiencing consciousness and the thoughts appear as a mere ripple in a deep ocean. This will be your experience. The thought becomes absolutely insignificant compared to the presence felt by consciousness. When such is the case, you can easily brush aside these thoughts. A little bit of focus and you will find the thoughts vanishing and only pure consciousness exists. Even the ego will subside, it will dissolve. What remains is not you, what remains is not the thoughts, what remains is only the divine expressing itself as pure consciousness. This is the final state of meditation. So for this, you need tremendous amount of preparation. Right? More detail we will see tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।